Donald Trump says he gives Hamas 3 or 4 days to accept the Gaza peace deal. 8 Arab and Muslim nations have urged Hamas to accept the terms of the plan, which includes Hamas giving up power in Gaza. Hamas is said to be reviewing the plan, which was announced by President Trump and is backed by Israel. Here's some of what President Trump has had to say in the last few minutes.
Hamas, how long do you plan to give Hamas to respond to the ceasefire proposal you've laid out?
We're going to do about 3 or 4 days. We'll see how it is. All of the Arab countries are signed up. The Muslim countries are all signed up. Israel's all signed up. We're just waiting for Hamas. And Hamas is either going to be doing it or not. And if it's not, it's going to be a very sad end.
And do you have a deadline, Mr. President? Is there room to negotiate, or is this a take it or leave it deal? Is there room to negotiate with Hamas, or is this a take it or leave it deal?
You know, with Hamas, we want very simple. We want the hostages back immediately. And we want some good behavior. And, you know, it's pretty simple. You don't get simpler. Think of it. We've signed every country in the Middle East. This was like an impossible thing. It's never been done before. This is more than Gaza. Gaza was big stuff. But Gaza is a piece of it.
And if they reject the deal, you said that Israel has your backing to do whatever they need to do. What do you envision that
looks like? Let them go and do what they have to do. They can do it pretty easily. I would let them go and do what they have to do. You know, we've killed about 25,000 Hamas. So certainly they paid a big price for October 7th. And this is a whole new group. You know, they come in and they come in, and they keep coming. But this is a whole different group. And their leadership has been killed 3 different times. So they paid a big price. We hope that they're going to have a nice, calm life. Maybe it won't happen, but if it does, it'll be one of the greatest things ever to happen. We'll have actual peace in the Middle East.
President Trump speaking in the last few minutes, and we are joined now by Will Grant, our North America correspondent. Will, just tell us a little bit more, if you can, about what President Trump has been saying. And obviously it is a really important moment, isn't it, to see what the Hamas response will now be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we have to see this in the context of the talks that are due later today between Qatar, Turkey and Hamas. And this is clearly President Trump heaping pressure on Hamas to accept this deal. It's already, as it were, riven in to this, the sort of terms of the proposal that if Hamas don't accept what's on the table, then Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel have the full green light from President Trump and the Trump administration to carry on as they were, which would mean the continued bombardment and airstrikes of Gaza City that we've seen in recent days. But it was interesting, wasn't it, to see him say that he's going to give 3 or 4 days to the Hamas leadership to accept this deal. As I say, sort of loading the pressure on ahead of any response from the Hamas leadership. And
do we know what levers are now being put on Hamas? Because countries like Qatar have funded them, they host the leaders. You know, other countries have had historically very strong links with Hamas, but of course it's been massively weakened by the Israeli military action.
It has, and I think that is the key point, isn't it? That the sort of reality on the ground is to such a position. I mean, President Trump talking there about 25,000 fighters having been killed for Hamas. Obviously, those figures hard to properly verify and independently stand up. But it is weakened. It is hugely weakened by this conflict. And when it sees the traditional sort of allies and the Arab and Muslim nations that are working as mediators and negotiators in this conflict are coming out and supporting the deal that is on the table by the Trump administration, you get the sense, don't you, of them being pushed into the corner, backed into the corner to accept this deal, in the sense that there might not be another one, and that this is the best opportunity for any kind of lasting peace that they're likely to see on the table from the Trump administration, at least at this stage.
We saw Benjamin Netanyahu in the White House, and yet obviously the strike on Qatar was difficult and controversial for the US. We saw that apology being announced from Israel to the Qataris. Donald Trump does have to balance a number of different allies, doesn't he, here?
Yeah, absolutely he does. He's trying to obviously maintain the strength of the relationship with the Gulf states, with Qatar. He mentioned Saudi Arabia, which is obviously a very, very important, traditionally important ally to Washington, not just to him personally. He went through this long list, didn't he, as he was making the speech, the announcement, sort of reeling off names of people who've been involved in Egypt and so on, and how he's become close to these nations. So, yeah, he is balancing that with, of course, the traditional strength of the relationship with Tel Aviv and with Mr. Netanyahu personally. That's not an easy balancing act. You get the sense that there are domestic political calculations being made in all this too, that here in the United States, opposition to the conflict, frustration with Israel is growing, even within the Republican base, even within his MAGA base, it has to be said. So he is juggling all these different things to an extent, or certainly his diplomatic team are. We'll have to see how successful it all is, because we've heard a lot of bombast, a lot of sort of optimism and hyperbole about how it's going to create sort of eternal peace in the Middle East. There's still a very, very long way to go before the details of this deal are accepted by Hamas and are in any way put into action on the ground.
And there are some contradictory messages that we've heard even in the last 24 hours, with Benjamin Netanyahu saying that the plan does not mean Palestinian statehood, even though a path towards that is obviously outlined in the document that's been published.
Yeah, I agree. I think that really is the crux of this. You're going to see, I think we're going to see contradictory statements coming from both sides on this. That's an important one that you've pointed out there from Mr. Netanyahu. Obviously with an eye towards his base and towards maintaining his coalition back in Israel. But the truth of the matter is we could find a situation where there's a certain degree of lip service or ostensibly accepting the rules of this deal or the terms of this proposal, but then the actions on the ground give a very, very different story. When we continue to see the bombardment of Gaza, when we continue to see the tens of thousands of Palestinian people who've been killed, so many thousands of them children.
Will Grant, thanks very much indeed.